I'd say that the worst thing about being a writer or a creator is the lack of stability.
If we were going to take the same new screenwriter and they asked, well, how do I know I have a yes person who might be reading my script? So it's a person who doesn't want to hurt my feelings, or maybe there's an agenda, they want to keep the friendship for whatever reason. How do you know, how do you decipher someone who's just giving you fluff?
You mean professionally, it's something that's leading nowhere?
Feedback on a script. So it could be a friend, it could be a manager, somebody that they just want to tell you yes, they want to keep you happy, but it's actually not constructive.
Well, what I would say is, what do you want from feedback? You don't want, I mean, of course, our egos need, a little attention. So when someone says, I loved your script, it's so good, there's a second where you appreciate it because you need validation. But then there's nothing you can do with that. And if you're honest with yourself, you don't really believe that your script is perfect. And I'm not saying that you should work on it endlessly, because there comes a time when you have to stop, when you have to move on. And there's a fine line between rewrites and then just over rewriting it. Of course, unless you're getting paid and then you have no choice. What I would say is you try people out. First of all, this intuition I mentioned, right? So your intuition says this person is mindful, this person might understand what I'm trying to do. They're generous with their time. Because a lot of people are, they can be great individuals, they're not really generous. Because, in order to read someone's script, you need to take time to read it and take notes and actually give them something back. If you're just going to read it in a hurry and say like, oh my God, you're such a good writer, great job. Like, you haven't really done the work. You haven't really considered, I know my script is not perfect, that's why I gave it to you. So if you feel people out, you try it. Usually when they give you notes, you know that if it's going to work out or not. It's like, next time I think I'll go with someone else. Because you actually want honest feedback. Like, what did you like? What did you connect with? What's working? What's not working? Did you find anything outlandish or outrageous? Some people might even, hopefully not, but they might even get offended. Like, why are you offended? Are you offended in a good way? Like, is this, causing contradictions that make you think, or is this actually offensive and, I should reconsider it in terms of topics, right, or content? So I think it's, trial and error, and with time you find your people. With reps, well, that's a whole different chapter, because reps, I've had several over the years, and it's hard. It's almost like a love relationship. You got to find your person. And agents, don't expect much in terms of creative conversation with an agent, but with a manager you can. Not always, though. Sometimes your manager's notes might be, this is not new enough. I need something new, because they're trying to sell. And it's like, well, I don't really know what to do with that. What does that mean? What do I know what new is? So, it's different because they're not your friend. They can be, but there's mutual interest in that you produce something that sells and they want to sell it. But with colleagues and friends, I feel like, you got to sense it. Like, okay, this person cares. This person is generous. And a lot of people are not, unfortunately.
It's a tricky thing, and I don't mean to contradict what you're saying, but with generosity, I think that, especially maybe here in LA, there are a lot of takers. And I know that's not a popular thing to say, but I'm just going to say it. And so I think when people, they have to be guarded with their time. And that's the only thing I can throw out about that.
Well, I feel like LA is a double-edged sword, in the sense that you got to be here because this is where opportunity happens. And that is still true, even though last year, when the pandemic was at its worst, I feel like you didn't have to be here. But usually you do, with meetings in person at least, or events, events where you can actually meet certain people. And that's tricky too, because, the thing with networking, transitioning to a whole different chapter. Well, the thing with networking is that you don't just go to parties and meet someone and get a job. You got to build a relationship. And the hardest part about LA is actually building meaningful relationships. And it's about the work you produce, but it's also about a personal connection that's real. People, when you actually like someone and they like you back, and you can have dinner. And you don't have to talk about work at dinner, you're just hanging out. But if you have something to offer and they actually like you and you like them, the odds are they're going to call you. So, it's not what you do, it's who you know. Well, it is about what you do. But having a personal connection that's real doesn't hurt.
Sure. I think that's where it's a challenge.
Yeah. And it is true. Look, it is true that a lot of people in this town are really desperate. So they are selfish, but also, they're trying to make a living, So I'm really trying to be understanding with everyone. Like, you can get upset and judge people and think they're superficial, or that their ambitions are over the top, But it is a very competitive environment, and people are just trying to get jobs. So, try to find your people, and if someone is not your crowd, then that's fine.
Sure, and it's a very expensive place to live, and it's competitive. Not just jobs, but survival jobs, apartments, everything. So you're constantly in this loop of competition, waiting for something. And so it's hard to, maybe the generosity, it's not that they don't want to help someone, it's just maybe they're all tapped out,
Everyone's here to, quote unquote, make it, right? And again, whatever that means. And I say that because everyone's careers have ups and downs, right? And when you're at your lowest, then maybe the next day, things just pick up incredibly. So even for highly successful people, nothing's guaranteed, right? You might be incredibly successful, making a lot of money, and have a deal with Amazon or Netflix or Apple, and then your show is a flop, and then you're vanished, right? So it's ups and downs. It's really hard to build meaningful relationship in a town where everyone's trying to find their niche and trying to find stability. I'd say that the worst thing about being a writer or a creator is the lack of stability. I think we all crave it at some point. That's why I like teaching, because it gives me a certain stability and a certain steady income, right? There's nothing wrong with having a plan B for the times when things don't work out. Even if you have writing jobs, contract negotiations can take forever. And I'll never understand why, because I'm not involved in that part, but they might take months. So you're waiting on a sure thing, and you're gonna get paid, and you're gonna have, just have to sit down and write. But, reps and lawyers, and there's something going on behind the curtain that you don't get to see, and you just have to be patient. So either find a hobby, or, get on a side gig. I love teaching. I love the interaction with students. I've done educational content. Every once in a while, I started out by making film-related content, and then I ended up, this year I wrote units on ethics and community, for example, and I didn't expect that to happen. That was exciting. But it's an income. It's stimulating. I learn. So, you gotta open up, have different avenues open.
Going back to what you said about writing and it being hard, I think you've posted that you like Gore Vidal, the author, and I know he's not worried about offending anyone or just saying what he feels. And one quote I have here from him is, "Some writers take to drink, others take to audiences." Is there anything?
I'm a big fan of Gore Vidal. I don't know if many people nowadays are. I've read. First of all, he's incredibly prolific. I can't believe that man. And by the way, he's overlooked in general. His whole take on American history. I mean, he's written about many relevant figures and periods of American history, and he's incredibly talented and insightful. I especially love his rivalry with William Buckley Jr. There's a documentary called Best of Enemies. And I think Aaron Sorkin at some point was going to make that movie, and I would have loved to see that. I just enjoy Vidal, and I envy, or I'd say, no, I admire more than envy. I admire how disciplined and prolific he was. In terms of, writing or any kind of stimuli involved, I drink coffee and write, and in terms of audiences, I try not to think too much about that, because you might get lost thinking about like, who am I writing for? You just try to be very personal and very honest and hope for the best. Just hope that someone cares.
And one last follow-up quote from Gord Vidal: "The four most beautiful words in our common language: I told you so."
Look, he was a provocateur, so I don't know what he actually means by "I told you so," which is probably one of the worst things you can tell anyone. No one ever reacted well to that sentence, right? But he did like to provoke a lot. He liked confrontation. Actually, I think Vidal and Buckley invented the figure of the pundit. I don't think before 1968, when they had those presidential debates, journalists, broadcasting news was just, it tried to be objective. The idea of having someone express opinions and debate, it wasn't a thing. So I think, I admire Vidal as a novelist, as a screenwriter, as a playwright, as a pundit. It's just one of those figures that I find him stimulating, and I also admire his intellect.